Hello and welcome to today's video lesson. I am Dr. Richi Simon from Social Work Department, here before you to present on the subject Understanding Social Casework Approach, Behavioral Therapy and Modification. In today's video, we will try to learn about behavioral therapy, behavioral modification as an approach, the objectives of behavioral therapy, the key figures that actually led to the development of this approach, the core concepts in behavior modification, and then finally the conclusion. So what is behavioral therapy? This therapy aims to change human behavior through structured learning. That means we are trying to train the mind to behave in a concerned manner using behavioral therapy. It does not involve, however, brainwashing or mind control, but then with subsequent trainings, people are understanding the way they should be behaving, and this is what we do in behavior modification. So it focuses on increasing the desired behavior and reducing the unwanted ones. So we can see here how the thoughts result into emotion. Emotions will direct the behaviors eventually lead to physical sensation, and that again leads to the thoughts. This is the approach that we take in cognitive behavioral therapy. So what are the objectives of behavioral therapy? Why is it done? It is done to understand the origin of behavior modification. So with the origin of behavior modification, we can understand how the behavior of a person can be altered. With behavioral therapy, we are also trying to understand the characteristics of behavioral therapy. So what is essential as you try implementing behavior modification? And in behavior therapy, we also appreciate the principles and procedures for improving the various life aspects by demonstrating the behavior which is expected in the individual as the positive behavior. Now, how did it emerge? So here you can see that there are 4 key people because of whom today we see this approach of behavior modification. The first one is Mr. Ivan P. Pavlov. This is a behaviorist who discovered respondent conditioning. The second person is Edward L. Thorndike, who developed the law of effect. John B. Watson, who advocated for behaviorism, and B.F. Skinner, who expanded the principles of operant conditioning. Now, they gave the idea as to how behavior can be modified and what exactly results in the response. So let's try to see at what respondent conditioning is. This is where a stimulus elicits a response due to an association with another stimulus. So the first person that we had seen here, Ivan P. Pavlov, conducted an experiment with a dog, and he tried to exemplify how the stimulus results into a concerned response. So let's try understanding the key terms over here. We have the conditioned stimulus, that is the CS. We have the unconditioned stimulus, that is the UCS. We have the conditioned response, that is CR. And we have the unconditioned response, that is UCR. Now what do we mean by this? Stimulus is anything in the environment which results in a response by an entity. So in this experiment, where Pavlov was trying to demonstrate the effect of unconditioned stimulus as the unconditioned response. So what he was doing? He was giving food to a dog. As soon as the dog was seeing the food, the dog started salivating. Now this, the food is what we call as the unconditioned stimulus, and the natural response to it is what we call as the unconditioned response. That means the dog is not exactly trained to salivate when it is seeing the food. This is a natural response. So anything which is present in the environment resulting in a natural response, that is an unconditioned stimulus, and the response for which you are not trained is what you call as the unconditioned response. Now, in the experiment, he was trying to associate another stimulus with this food. So what he did, he would ring a bell and provide food to the dog. What the dog understood was that as soon as the bell is rung, the food is provided to it. Later, what Pavlov did was that he just rung the bell and then the dog started salivating. So there is an association that the dog had made that with the bell ringing, the food will be provided to the dog. Now, eventually if you are ringing a bell in front of a dog, it will not start salivating. But because of this conditioned stimulus, which was with the pairing of the food, this is what a conditioned stimulus is, that the dog had learned in the presence of a bell, the food will be provided. So with the conditioned stimulus, that is ringing of the bell, when the dog started salivating, this is what is the unconditioned response. So over the year, when we start learning to respond to the different stimuli that is present in the environment around, what we are learning is the conditioned response. Now, if we are learning the conditioned responses, so do they sustain throughout the life? No, they don't. Extinction happens. Now, what is extinction? Extinction happens when the conditioned stimulus no longer predicts the unconditioned stimulus. So when you try to break the relation between the conditioned stimulus and the unconditioned stimulus, in that case extinction will happen. In this case, eventually if you just ring the bell and the dog starts salivating, over a due course of time the dog will understand that just by ringing the bell there is no food which is provided. So what is happening? The dog will stop salivating in case if you are just ringing the bell. This is what is extinction. So over the time, when we see that the conditioned response is diminishing and there is no association between the conditioned stimulus and the unconditioned stimulus, in that case extinction will happen. Let me explain this with an example. If a child is having fear of cats, this may reduce if they are encountering cats without negative experiences. So supposing the child is exposed to the cats and the cats are not doing any harm to the child, in that case extinction will happen. Of what? Of the fear that the child might be facing earlier. Now, in behavior modification, there is another thing which is important, that is counter conditioning. So counter conditioning is whereby you are training your mind to associate the ill effect of something with the actions that you do. And what's expected out of it is the reduction in the undesired responses by conditioning incompatible responses. So the things that don't go together. Like, for an example, you can associate the taste or smell of tobacco with the negative images of its harmful effects. So any person who is with the habit of smoking, if tries to relate such type of images and picturizes how the condition of the person will be if they continue this behavior, probably the behavior will reduce. Now, there are two more important aspects which come in behavior modification, and theoretically they are reinforcement and punishments. Reinforcers are those things which are trying to promote a concerned behavior, and punishments will try to reduce a concerned behavior. So now there are certain types of reinforcements also present. We have the positive reinforcement that is achieved by adding a pleasant stimulus to increase a behavior. So if you want to modify the behavior of a person, you can add positive reinforcers there. For example, you want the child to perform better in the exams. What do? You can give a positive reinforcer. Say you will give the person a chocolate as a result of better grades in the test. There are also negative reinforcers, that is removing an unpleasant stimulus to increase a behavior. For example, you will reduce the noise in order to increase a concerned behavior. So now what is noise? That is an unpleasant stimulus, and with the reduction of it, when a person is behaving properly, you reduce the noise, and then that behavior you expect to be repeated. So understand that reinforcers will always result in a pleasant experience. So whether you are adding something or you are removing something, the end result is always going to be pleasant. So positive reinforcers, you're giving something to the person whose behavior you want to modify, and that behavior is expected to be repeated. Negative reinforcers, you are just taking something unpleasant from a person, and then you're expecting the behavior to increase, and this is leaving the person with a pleasant experience. What are punishments then? Punishments are those things which are resulting into an unpleasant experience. Positive punishments will be those that are added to get an unpleasant experience. Okay, so these are the unpleasant stimuluses that are added to decrease a behavior. So if a person is not behaving properly, you will give something, you're adding something. This is the positive punishment. Say you are asking a child to move out of the class. This is a positive punishment. You are adding something. Or you're giving some extra assignment to the child. This is a positive punishment. So the end result of it is going to be unpleasant. Then what's a negative punishment? Punishment, the end result is going to be an unpleasant experience. And negative punishments, you are taking something away which results in unpleasant experience. So you're removing a pleasant stimulus to decrease a behavior. That is what we do in negative punishments. So for example, if you want to modify the behavior of a child and the child is not behaving properly and you want to reduce that behavior, so what you will do, you can take the favorite toys of the child away. So if you are demonstrating this behavior, I will take something that you like from you. This is what is negative punishment like. So negative means taking away, positive means adding. Reinforcement means a pleasant experience. Punishment will always result in a negative experience. Now, initially in the experiment done by Ivan Pavlov, he also talked about conditioning and the natural responses that are coming because of the natural stimuluses that are present. That means the unconditioned stimuluses resulting in the unconditioned response. This is what he said was classical conditioning. So you don't really have to do anything about it. It's a natural response that will come because of the objects which are present in the environment. So is it really how we live? No, we learn across time. So what is happening here is operant conditioning. That means learning that is based on the consequences of behavior. So we do something, there is a consequence of it which directs our behavior, whether this should be repeated or not. That's what operant conditioning is like. How do you do that? You do that with the help of reinforcement or punishment. So reinforcement will be increasing the behavior probability and punishments will be decreasing it. Like explained in the previous slide, we have positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment and negative punishment. In the diagram that you see here, you can easily understand that if you want to increase the behavior, that is you are trying to reinforce it, what you can do is add the stimulus. You add the stimulus, it results in positive reinforcement and the experience is pleasant. You remove the stimulus, that is negative reinforcer, and negative reinforcement will also result in a pleasant experience. So something that is not really liked in the environment, you take that away, that's going to result in a pleasant experience for the persons whose behavior you are trying to modify. That is negative reinforcement. If you want to decrease the behavior, you do that with the help of punishment. And what is a positive punishment? Whereby you are adding something which is unpleasant for the persons whose behavior you are trying to modify. And what is a negative punishment? You are taking away something which is really liked by the person, and both these cases will result in unpleasant experiences. Unpleasant experiences. Reinforcement will always result in pleasant experiences. And with this, we try to modify the behavior. So, pleasant experiences, the behavior, the tendencies of it will increase. Unpleasant experiences, the tendencies to repeat the behavior will reduce. So, in this video, we have tried to learn that behavioral therapy and modification are powerful tools for shaping and improving human behavior. With the contributions of the pioneers like Pavlov, Watson, Thorndike and Skinner, they laid the foundation for these evidence-based approaches which continue to be widely used in different settings like therapy, education and even our day-to-day life. I hope that you have understood the basic concepts of behavioral approach in social casework. Thank you.